Alright guys, today we're going to be taking a look at the Masters of the Universe Castle Grayskull Polystone environment from Icon Heroes. So this Castle Grayskull statue comes in this rather nice looking box, very reminiscent of the vintage artwork. We've got this great battle scene on the front. We can see He-Man and Skeletor fighting over the castle. We've got Beastman and Merman, we've got Stratos, we've got Man-at-Arms, Teela, Zodak. We've even got the Wind Raider flying overhead. This end of the box is not so spectacular, we just get a picture of what's inside. And the opposite end to that is just the other sides of the castle. And the back of the box features the castle inside. We get a little bio that's very reminiscent of the Masters of the Universe Classics line. We can also see some other things available from Icon Heroes, the Castle Grayskull business card holder, and we've also got the Power Sword letter openers. And in case you were wondering, this is the top of the box. Alright guys, here is Castle Grayskull. So this is no toy, this is a statue. It stands about 9 inches tall. And if we bring in He-Man, that gives you a better idea just how big we're talking about. What's really great about this castle though, is this is the first and only time that we get to see Castle Grayskull from every side and on top. Now if you're familiar with any of the Castle Grayskull toys, you will know that the castle only ever has a front and a side. This one however has all 4 sides and the top section to look at. So what we're going to do, we're going to get in really close and I'll give you the tour. So this is the jaw bridge, and you can see there it's pretty nicely done. We've got a nice wood effect on there and all the metal pieces look as though they've been rusted over the years. You can even see the little details, like we've got the big keyhole there that would fit the power sword on the vintage toy. And as this is designed by the 4 Horsemen, you'll find that this bears a lot of similarities to the recent Classics Castle Grayskull. One thing I did notice though, this door, although it's massive, does seem a little bit out of scale. If you just bear in mind how big that keyhole would be, and then when you see some of the other doors on this castle, that's pretty huge. But in proportion with the rest of the front of the castle, it feels like it's the right scale. So then we come to the skull, the main feature of Castle Grayskull, and it's really nicely done. We've got lots of sharp teeth on there. The eyes, although they're set really far back, you can actually see a lot of green in there. But when you've got the light right, that casts a shadow and it does look like they're just black. On this tower we've got this window ledge. That's rather large looking compared to some of the other doors. When you get round the back of the castle, that looks pretty huge. But it's nice that it's got some brown paint on there to emulate the wood, which we can also see underneath the crown. On the opposite tower we have this little ledge. Now this wasn't present on the vintage Castle Grayskull. It was on the original prototype and it was brought back for the Classics Grayskull. And it works really well here, it looks nicely in scale. And you can see there's even some little steps leading up from it. Moving straight up, you can see we've still got the 2 towers that stand at different heights, and we've also got the crown of Castle Grayskull. And you'll notice that this one has the pawn, which was originally on the prototype, missing from the vintage Castle Grayskull, and brought back for the Classics Castle Grayskull. So let's move back down and around and look at the side that we're most familiar with as the rear of Castle Grayskull. So this side should look familiar to anybody who's ever owned one of the toys. This was always the panel that would fold out, or you could fold it back in to form the back of the castle. But on this version it stays as one of the sides. And it's actually very faithful to what we've seen before. On the ground level we've got all these rocks, and we've got the steps that lead up to the old blocked off doorway. Above that we've got the old balcony with the little windows and the thatched roofs, and again this one's nicely been picked out in brown, whereas if you remember the original toy it was just green. And above that we get to see the battlements, and we've got this tower that's again covered with a nicely thatched roof. So that's the Castle Grayskull that we're all familiar with. But let's take a look beyond. So this was a real surprise to me the first time I saw this. What we have is the back of Castle Grayskull. And it's a spine. So it's like some creature just settled down and fossilized into rock, and they built a castle around it. And you can see that that spine actually goes all the way up and onto the top of Castle Grayskull. Moving beyond the spine we have the 4th tower, which we have never seen before. And to be fair, it's pretty similar to the other towers. And if we look at the base of that tower, we can see we've got more rock formations. And we also see the start of these metal rings that go all the way around the next side. So this is the final side of Castle Grayskull, again a side we've never seen before. And you can see that metal ring motif goes all the way around this side. And you can also see what I mentioned about the size of the doors. That door on the front is way bigger than this door on the side. And also if you look at the width of the balconies, they're very, very small. And if we take a look from overhead, you can see just how thin these balconies are. But those balconies lead to this stairway. And you've seen this stairway before, because it leads to this ledge, which is back around the front. And then we come to the top of Castle Grayskull. So viewed from the back corner, we can see the way the spine goes over the top of the castle. We can also see the back of the crown, which features the little door. And that door was present on the Classics version of Castle Grayskull. And if we take a look from above, we can see we've got lots of nice paving stones and stairways. And those stairways all lead to something. One leads to the door, and the other one leads to the tower at the front. And you'll notice in the corner, we've also got this little doorway. And above that doorway, we can see there's a little staircase running up through the tower, which takes us right to the top. And this is the staircase that leads to the opposite tower. And it's really nice the way this has all been logically thought out. And if we take a look at the underneath of the castle, we can see this nice Masters of the Universe logo, the copyright date, which is 2012. And we also get some foam feet, so if you wanted to put this on a wooden surface, it wouldn't cause any scratching. So guys, as you can see, this is a pretty impressive rendition of Castle Grayskull. But it gets better. And this is the Castle Grayskull Deluxe Accessory Set. And the box that this comes in is huge, so big, there's no way I can fit this into shot. So on the front of this box we can see this great looking picture of Castle Grayskull with a kind of hint at what's going to come in the accessory set. And the top half of that picture gives us another clue. Yes, that is the Talon Fighter. On this side of the box we get to see the Talon Fighter and Point Dread, and we can also see the display base for Castle Grayskull, which is sold separately. On the back we get to see a photograph of the prototype for the accessory set, which is slightly different. And the back also features the classic style bio telling you that this was made once again by the Four Horsemen. So the smallest accessory we get is the flag, and this is made of the same kind of polystone that the rest of the set is made of, barring the actual flag, which is just a paper piece. And it's really nice to see that the back of the flag actually features the evil design. And the next piece that we get is the cannon, and this bears more resemblance to the vintage toy than it does to the classics version. Again, it's made out of polystone, and it's very, very small, especially the little handles. It's amazing how they've actually managed to make this. It's also worth noting that this is a solid piece of polystone. It has no moving parts whatsoever. The next piece we get is Point Dread, and this is just like the vintage toy. It comes in two parts, this one being the base, and you can see we've got a great looking little dungeon on there. We've got some tree roots and we've got some steps leading around. On this side we can see some rocks and some more tree roots, and we also see some more castle design, and there's also a little door there. And if we get in close to that door, you can see this is designed just like the doors on Castle Grayskull. It's even got the same weathered bronze effect on the metal. And the other side you can see where the steps lead up to. We've also got some more tree roots and more rocks. On the top we have this very specific shaped peg, and that's so we can attach the next piece. And this is the top of Point Dread. We can see we've got some battlements. We've also got another one of those metal hoops. My only complaint with this piece is the top half and the bottom half, the green colours don't quite match. And if we take a look at the other side, we can see where those steps lead to now. So they would come up the top around the front, and we have a little doorway, and there's also another set of steps leading right to the very top. And at the very top we can see we've got a little hole there, and that hole is so we can attach the Talon Fighter, and that just slots in. We've got a nice metal peg and the Talon Fighter's beam. And this is the Talon Fighter, the vehicle that came with Point Dread. Paint design is very, very nice on this, although it is a little bit sloppy in a couple of areas. And again, this piece is made of polystone, even the radar. It seems to be holding fine, but I do fear if this falls that would break off. Around the back though, we just have a lot of blue. There's not really a lot to see there. And it would have been kind of nice if this would remove from its perch, but unfortunately it doesn't. It's permanently attached. And now things start to get really exciting. We're going to start building up the stand for Castle Grayskull. So this is the base piece, and just like the castle, it features underneath a simple black background with Masters of the Universe, and we also get some more little foam pads, so if you want to put this on a wooden surface it's not going to scratch anything. Now if you remember on the box this was painted green, but the actual piece is grey. All the way around it features this swirling rock formation, and on the top we have this strange crater. And the next piece to go on is this six-legged castle stand, and this is really heavy. It is underneath, again nicely sculpted, which is a bit strange because you're not going to see it, and the bit that you do see is actually perfectly smooth. So the front of this piece features a little gap where the drawbridge would be. On each side we have 3 bone legs that hold the castle in place, and again these are really nicely done, and the colours match the castle perfectly. And on the back section we actually see a continuation of the spine and the vines from the castle itself. So as you can see, this is a very nice looking piece. It's also extremely heavy. The bottom piece is hollow, however the top piece I'm pretty sure that's solid because it weighs a ton. And my only gripe with this comes with the top piece. You've got all that sculpture underneath, under the bits that we're not going to see. And yet this top piece, yes, it needs to be flat to hold the castle, but there's parts of this you're going to see when you put the castle on, and it's just a shame that they didn't blend it in a little bit better. So before we add the castle to this scene, we need to put in one more piece, and that is the bridge. So the bridge simply lines up next to where the front feet go, and you can see this has the same colour scheme as the lower base. It would have been nice to see this in green, but this is what we've got. And if we take a closer look at this bridge, this is one of the best sculpted parts of this set. It looks like it's just been ripped out of the cartoon. But again, we do have a little issue with scale because the gaps under these aren't very big. If we base it on any of the doors or the gun that we get, everything is just a little bit out. All that said though, if you look up the bridge towards the castle, this looks great. So the next thing to put on this is Castle Grayskull. It does fit on pretty nicely, although there is a little bit of a gap. But the thing that bothers me most is that smooth bit under the drawbridge. That could have looked so much better. So as you can see, this adds a massive height difference to Castle Grayskull. And if we bring back our classics He-Man, you can see just how much bigger this is now. This base is a really nice addition to Castle Grayskull, and it would be lovely to see something like this for the classics Grayskull, although it would have to be huge. So the accessories we get to make this look a bit more like the vintage playset, we get the flag, and we get the little gun turret. The gun turret I think looks great. It's maybe a little bit too big, but it definitely looks good on top of the castle. The flag on the other hand, although it's a nice inclusion, it just feels all over the place as far as scale goes. And to be honest, I think it works better if you take it off there and put it on the little back tower. And there's a reason you'd want to do that, because this tower you can fit on the top half of Point Dread. And this is something you could always do with the vintage toy. Not something I was ever into, to be honest, but it's nice that you've got the option. I would always much rather see Point Dread stood alongside the castle than stuck on top of it. And it does blend in really well with this castle. So there you go guys, the Castle Grayskull and accessory set from Icon Heroes. This has been Luke. Thank you for watching.